Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be back again. So this is now my third time. Every year I'm back. Hope it's not getting boring. That's why I changed the topic. Oops, can you shift to my slides? I want to share something detailed more on the prime product of or ingredients of your feed, the corn, which is of course always a cost burden, where we are seeing a tremendous need to inform the industry that corn is one of the most critical products which you ever can have. And of course, most of you, the feed mills use it in an extensive way. And we should always keep in mind 80% of your cost is your raw material. And of course, in this case, we have to take care. And we saw already a nice picture of my speaker before. Now I add another picture where we see concerns in the storage bin, which is usually the hazard where we lose already quite a tremendous amount. And I want to talk a little bit about the corn itself before I give you also information how to settle this. So in general, we have to understand that corn is a very inhomogeneous product. It's very diverse. It's so critical. You look on a corn cob, and when you want to find two equal kernels, you will fail, because all the kernels are different. They are different in shape, in density, in moisture content, and other features. So in this way, you have an inhomogeneous product, and you want to treat it in a common way, and this fails, of course, since you miss some details. Yeah, already when you look at the moisture content on a corn cob, you feel a surprise. Yeah, it's harvested at once, but it's very diverse in the moisture content. And this is not the only concern. The concern is, of course, many people dry it, and then they assume the average moisture content is granted. Of course, the average moisture content is a figure, but not reality. Reality is it's diverse. It's still the moisture content in a wide range, even after drying. You see that was an investigation which was done on 3 different dryings, and still we failed to bring the moisture content to a narrow range. You see its outcomes really in a wider range, but the drying happened. And we should be very worried about that and be aware what that means. Because when we handle our corn in the facility, we convey it and we load it. We do a bulk handling. And the bulk handling has a consequence, because all kernels vary. And that is then one outcome, the segregation by weight, which will group the kernel sizes according to their physical properties. And then you get a grouping in your bin where suddenly big kernels, moist kernels, and dry kernels separate. And of course, then you have a concern where all the moist product comes together, or where the dry products come together, and then the storage is in critical condition and fails or brings problems which we have seen. And it's not the end, because you unload. And unloading brings again a physical activity which will always bring another segregation. And that is then the concern where you suddenly have a flowing zone and a dead zone. The dead zone remains much longer in the bin than the flowing zone. And these are the most critical kernels, and accordingly a disaster has to be expected if grain management fails or is not considered. Something like this, yeah, where you see the molds is growing nicely along the corrugated sheet of the silo wall. It has a reason, and the reason is the corn and the inhomogeneous product, the moisture content, and the consequence is that, of course, here mycotoxin is not something you want to handle, and you have to consider now what to do. Yeah, when we look at the fungus and the development of mycotoxin, we see those fungus grow under 3 different conditions: the moisture content, the temperature, and the relative humidity. And be reminded, the moisture content is here mentioned at 14%, you are safe. Remember the picture, we still had corn of 30% after drying. No wonder that molds grow. One reliever could be that we add a temperature management in your bin, that we go on low temperature. Yeah, moderate climates have the favor of having a winter, but winter comes late. So temperature management must come already after loading in the bin. We cannot wait for months before winter comes, and in tropical region, winter never comes. So temperature management is required to prevent this kind of mold growth. Another point, we lose quantities by dry substance, by respiration activity. Yeah, the sustainable chemical reaction of grains is respiration, means the seedling inside the germ wants to stay alive. It consumes its own carbohydrates. It generates heat. Dependent on the temperature, on the moisture content of the corn, it can be more or less. But in general, it has one meaning. And one meaning is we have losses. We have losses by the natural respiration activity of the grain. And also here we see a temperature management can minimize this. So temperature seems to be quite an effective tool to control our condition in the bin. And we are not done yet. We want to look into the infestation. Yeah, weevils, everybody has seen them. Their natural habitat is to live in the grain, so it's not a surprise. And also here we see that the temperature management which is done, you see the scale here, you see a color code for each column of each insect. Red, of course, danger for us. High temperature, normal temperature under tropical condition. Then we see lower temperature where the activity of the weevil is already suppressed, fertility is suppressed, and we see the white area, which means no development. The weevils are switched off. Not killed, but switched off. What is switched off? Doesn't bother me. So I'm out of that. So again, a temperature management can be a good support for making a reliable grain management. And here we see now what we promote here also here on the BRV show, our grain coolers, yeah, to make temperature management happening every day, independent on the weather condition, independent on the climate situation. And this means we produce cold and dehydrated air, bring it in the aeration system of the bin, control the temperature to a low level so that we stop respiration, we stop the fungus, we stop the insects. We make a moisture management as well because moist products dry out by the low and dry air which goes through the hot grain. And accordingly, we bring reliable storage situations to the point where we have success in having a safe crop always available when we need it. Yeah, some advantages to mention. Details about this you will get when you meet me at the hall number 7. 3042 is our booth. You are most welcome. Our team is excited for all your questions. Let us hear your headaches. Let you be informed about the solution. And I thank you for your attention.